Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town Board Work Session for Tuesday, June 4th, 2019. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We were all shocked and saddened to hear the news of the mass shooting at the Virginia Beach Municipal Center last Friday. The shooter was a municipal employee who had 1 week earlier resigned from his position with the city. Of the 13 lives lost, aside from the shooter, all but one were municipal employees, which hits especially close to home for us in the town. While we continue to emphasize employee safety here in Ossining, now more than ever, our thoughts are with the city of Virginia Beach, as well as with all of the families and friends of those lives tragically cut short. Please join me in a moment of silence to remember this unspeakable loss. Thank you. I'm just going to start with a few announcements and comments. As a reminder, leaf blower legislation went into effect in the town and the village of Ossining on May 31st. On our website, we have posted a snapshot of the town's legislation in both English and Spanish and a link to the full law, but here are a few highlights. Between May 31st and September 30th of each year, gas-powered leaf blowers are prohibited, except in cemetery properties and on pavement when operated at half speed during emergencies like storms, when the supervisor may declare a temporary moratorium, and with a temporary permit, bless you, granted by our building inspector for a period not to exceed 7 days. We follow 14 or 15 other municipalities in Westchester who adopted this type of seasonal prohibition in an effort to improve quality of life for those who operate these machines. One local garden store owner let me know he had major hearing loss from operating these machines for so many years. Those in the vicinity of machines being operated, as well as to improve air quality and do our part to combat climate change. June is LGBTQ Pride Month, and earlier today I joined my colleagues in the village of Ossining, as well as Town Council member Shaw and the LGBTQ Alliance in Ossining in raising a pride flag for the first time ever in front of this building, which is Village Town Hall at 16 Croton Avenue. We always talk about how Ossining is an inclusive community. And while that is true, I gave some extra thought to what precisely that means today while listening to the remarks. While we all are aware that Ossining prides itself on its diversity and welcoming nature, the reason that matters is then that when we all live, learn, eat, shop, and grow in one place, regardless of our color, religion, race, gender, identity, or expression, size, lifestyle choices, or bank account balance, we can live richer, more robust lives if we can appreciate our differences as well as our similarities, not live in silos, and welcome all that our differences add to our community. Then perhaps we can move away from hate and hateful actions like those in Virginia Beach and live in a community where kindness and respect reign and where we understand people as people and learn the value of lives being lived differently than ours. I'm even more proud now to come to work every day while this flag waves for the next month, knowing that these shared values are reflected here, and seeing the assembled crowd today, I know I am not alone. Congratulations, Ossining, and happy Pride Month. One of the best things about this time of year, lots of live music. Tomorrow, Wednesday, June 5th, the Ferry Sloop Summer Concert Series launches with a performance by Endless Field, an instrumental guitar and bass duo who will perform at Chatham Yacht Club starting at 7:30 p.m. Learn more about this free concert and the series at www.ferrysloops.org. The Ossining Documentary and Discussion Series will also be celebrating Pride Month in June, offering the film Transmilitary, a look into the lives of 4 transgender individuals serving in the U.S. military who must conceal their gender identity in order to serve our nation. This Thursday, June 6th at 6:30 p.m. at the Ossining Public Library's Boudars Theater. Make sure not to miss this thoughtful program, which will include an expert panel discussion after the film. This Saturday, June 8th, you guessed it, it's the 39th annual Ossining Village Fair. Come on down to Main Street between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. to shop, snack, sing, dance, and learn more about our great community, its service organizations, and businesses. The town will be represented well by the Town Environmental Advisory Committee, Green Ossining, the Cedar Lane Art Center, and Forest Ophir's Haunted Attraction, each with their own booths this year. I look forward to seeing you there. It's going to be warm, so make sure to pack some sunscreen. Also this weekend, the Clearview School will host their 5K run/walk for the kids this Sunday, June 9th. Registration and sign-in will begin at 7:45 a.m. on the morning of the race at Joseph G. Caputo Community Center and will proceed along the aqueduct. Then on Monday, June 10th, the Ossining Public Library will present its annual report to the community in the Boudars Theater beginning at 7 p.m. Come to hear about the highlights and accomplishments that your library has achieved this past year. Claudia Depkin, director of Havastraw's King's Daughters Public Library, whose work focuses on sustainability, will be the evening's keynote speaker. Be sure to stop upstairs before the meeting and check out some of the cool new day passes that you can borrow using your library card, including passes to the American Museum of Natural History. Learn more about these and other available passes by visiting OssiningLibrary.org and see where your library card can take your family this summer. Speaking of summer, I would be remiss if I did not mention our upcoming 2019 Summer Concert Series. This year we worked with Mike Risco Music to curate the performers and the Chamber of Commerce to launch Food Truck Fridays and to help administer this program along with our recreation department. We hope everyone will come down to Engle Park at 5 p.m. on Fridays and grab a bite before the concerts start at 7 p.m. We're kicking this off, as always, at the Independence Day fireworks celebration on Wednesday, July 3rd, with the rain date of July 8th, where the J. Prince Band will be rocking the night with their blend of soul, jazz, dance, and pop music, not to mention a ton of food trucks. Then, that Friday, July 5th, plans are in the works for a dueling DJs party, which may or may not include karaoke. If you plan to be in town for the holiday weekend, this sounds like a great bet to me. On Friday, July 12th, we will be joined by Ossining's own Soul Project, followed on Friday, July 19th by urban folk jazz storytelling person extraordinaire, musician extraordinaire, KJ Dennert. And then the Mike Risco Band on Friday, July 26th. Moving into August, we have Ossining High School alum Elisa Paymer opening. Paymer. Thank you, Paymer. I was wondering how to pronounce that. Opening for family favorite Old Mill Singers on Friday, August 9th. And then Brooklyn-based reggae performers Taj Weeks and Adowa, who performed last year to great acclaim. And they'll take the stage on Friday, August 16th. Latin jazz band Nova Blue will join us on Friday, August 23rd. And we will wrap up the 2019 series with soulful blues artist Mark Von M on Friday, August 30th. I hope you will plan to join us and the Ossining Chamber of Commerce on Friday evenings at the waterfront this summer. It's one of the best times of year to be in Ossining. Additionally, we're gearing up for the season of Mind, Body, Spirit Ossining events. This year, we are partnering with our friends at Open Door Family Medical Center to make our lineup better than ever and easier to find. We plan on announcing the schedule for the spring-summer at the Village Fair on Saturday with classes for all ages, from yoga and Tai Chi to recess rocks and kids Zumba. Stay tuned for more information about how to register for these free classes on our recreation page, offered in our parks, hosted by some of Ossining's best fitness and wellness small businesses. On Wednesday, June 12th, Chef Sarah Bowen of the Catskill Animal Sanctuary, did I pronounce that right? Anybody? Bowen? Okay. Will be behind the stove at Good Choice Kitchen at 147 Main Street, fixing up some delicious vegan provisions and teaching you how to recreate them for family and friends. They had me at blackberry fig crisp, but they kept me with lime pineapple slaw and Greek watermelon salad. All recipes featured are from the Sanctuary's new cookbook, Compassionate Cuisine, which will be available for purchase after the class. All proceeds will go directly towards the Sanctuary's continued programming. The class begins at 6:30 p.m., $75 per person for chefs ages 13 and up. Make sure to pre-register in person at Good Choice Kitchen by calling them at 930-1591 or emailing info@goodchoicekitchen.com. I do want to mention that if you are not here in the audience, which you probably aren't since we only have a couple of people here, and watching this at home, and you still want to participate in the village's comprehensive plan launch and hear a little bit about that, you can do that at the Ossining Public Library right now as we speak, Tuesday, June 4th. Today is June 4th, and it's a little It's about 7:45 p.m. in case you are watching this live. Finally, I want to draw your attention to a special work session that will be held on Tuesday, June 18th at the courthouse. Usually we would be here for a work session, but we are going to have to be at the courthouse. So the town board is going to be discussing the River Knoll project proposed for the Stony Lodge property along Croton Dam Road. We are aware that the community has had a lot of questions about this project. It's still before the planning board, so we will be joined by our planner, David Stallman, who will be able to give some insight on where the proposed project stands at this time. And as we know, there are many community members who would like to share their thoughts and ask questions of our experts. So we will break precedent and allow for public comment at this work session. I hope you can join us at the courthouse on Tuesday, June 18th at 7:30 p.m. for this important conversation. Tonight, we have 4 quick items on our work session agenda. Before I get into those, are there any other announcements anybody has?
Only that now that boating season has started,
Yes.
and a lot of people have been coming around expressing interest in joining the Ossining Boat and Canoe Club, the next opportunity would be Wednesday, June 12th. And you would come at 7, but go to obcc.org, click on membership, and you will get all the information you need, including your application.
Which reminds me, our spray park opened to great acclaim last weekend. We have a wonderful new spray pad, and we're going to be telling you more about our ribbon cutting, which is going to be coming up in July. But the spray park has been opened, and unfortunately, I think overuse and or possible abuse of the sensor system led to its demise between Saturday and Sunday. So Sunday, the spray park was not functioning. We are in the process of troubleshooting, and we hope to have it up and running again this weekend. But if not, we will get it online as soon as possible, and we will let you know when that is. So, on to tonight. We have 4 quick items on our work session agenda, and we will begin with picking up a conversation that we left off with a few weeks back about a new version of our proposed local law regarding our dog park at Cedar Lane and our dog run at Ryder Park. I am very happy to have Councilwoman Shaw, who sat for many years on the Recreation Advisory Board, and our Deputy Supervisor and Councilwoman Feldman, who is our resident dog park expert, here with me tonight to hopefully wrap up this part of the discussion so that we can call for a public hearing in the coming weeks. We also have our Chief of Police, Kevin Sylvester, and Superintendent of Recreation, Bill Garrison, with us this evening, both of whom have been kind enough to make recommendations to us throughout this process, and they're also taking a look, and if they have any comments, we invite them to talk to us tonight at our work session about those. So I'm going to turn this over to our counsel to the town, Christy Tomadonna, to bring us back through this discussion and talk a little bit about some of the revisions that have been made to the draft local law so that we can comment on those. And they look really great to me. So thanks for all the work.
Be sure to tell Councilman Wiltshire when you see him.
I shall do. His favorite topic. He's very, very pleased that he does not have to be here for this conversation. I'm quite sure.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Supervisor. So we started 2 weeks ago with a draft that worked off of Article 2 for licensing and license fees, which is currently existing within the town code. And that was amended to add a couple of subsections to 7410 regarding licensing. One of the discussions the board had last work session was having a start date of June 1st for when the licensing would be required annually. So subsection B was amended. I noticed there's a typo. It should say all dogs required to be licensed. So I have already noted that.
That's the only thing I noted, by the way.
I apologize.
Pretty good. Just an ass at the end of it.
So that's something that was incorporated. The concept that the town board has been working off of is trying to consolidate the licensing and the park registration, the dog park registration, which is currently, I understand, done separately through the town clerk for licensing and the recreation department for dog park registration. So the goal is to consolidate that into one process so that it's easier and everyone in the town will automatically get their park registration at the same time that they get their annual licenses. And then there was the concept added in subsection D that talks about prorating basically the fees that you would have to pay for those who may get a dog or register for whatever reason after the deadline, and so it provides for a prorated fee so that they're not paying for the entire year. And that's something that'll probably have to be fleshed out a little bit more, but that was a concept that was discussed.
And just to review, part of the reason that the concept was discussed was to make it easier to have color-coded tags,
Right.
which would be hard to do if people have sort of these rolling permits based on
If everyone's on their own schedule.
if everybody's on their own schedule, right? So if we move everybody to one schedule where the license and the permit are concurrent and they start and stop at the same date, it would be easier to monitor
Right.
and enforce.
Do we know
We think.
systematically how that's going to happen? Is there a provision in the system to do that? I know at the pool, don't they prorate at the pool fees?
Not any longer.
Oh, okay.
But this wouldn't go through rec anymore.
Yeah, I'm just saying, is there
So-
like precedent somewhere in some system that it can be done? I'm just not sure
I
if the
think-
system. can
I
handle
don't
it.
yet know exactly what the system is, and it would probably be a little complicated for the first year and much less complicated for the following
Right.
subsequent years, I would think.
And I think we would want to have the clerk's office weigh in on
Yes.
this also. And, you know, as to the actual feasibility, obviously, of the implementation and management of this process. But the goal is intended to simplify the process and make sure that everyone's getting both of their.
Just throw a monkey wrench in just for fun. I don't see the different. It's not really spelled out that the non-neutered dogs can't go to the dog park in this.
It's in the
Further
rules.
down.
It is, yes.
Further
All right.
In
Yeah,
the,
why don't
in-
we just keep going? I'm
All
sorry,
right,
I
keep
didn't mean
going.
to. Let's just keep going so we make sure we get through everything.
All right, go. I didn't see that.
Okay. But one of the things that had come up and something that we had discussed last time is how unincorporated town, Village of Ossining, and Village of Briarcliff Manor residents were going to be treated in all of this as far as resident versus non-resident. And with respect to the fees that would be charged, the town's direction was that anyone within the incorporated town, meaning the
Anybody within
villages also, they would all be treated as residents for the purposes of fees. However, one of the issues that I was kind of trying to wrap my head around is because the village residents have their own code that requires them to get licensed annually. It's very similar to the way the town's code currently reads. And you have a town clerk that's serving as town clerk and village clerk, whether the village would need to be on board with these changes and modify their own code so that it applies to village residents also. That's not to say that we can't require that anyone using the town's dog parks don't have to be registered, but it's just the concept of whether when someone from the village goes in to license their dog, first of all, do they have to do it by June 1st of every year? And second of all, are they also then required at the same time to get their registration fee? And so I think that's something that we may want to have a conversation with the village about, just because I think it may make the administration a lot more streamlined.
And I mean, we certainly could talk to Briarcliff about it as well.
Well-
Even though it wouldn't be streamlined in terms of that administration, because some of it still have to come to us, but.
Well, anyone would have to register with the town, would be my understanding, resident or non, if they want to use the dog parks.
Right.
But because the Village of Ossining currently does their licensing as well through the town clerk, and I think my understanding from the conversation 2 weeks ago was that the Village of Briarcliff Manor does not.
Correct. No, that's
So-
right. No, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, so I mean, certainly
Yes.
having conversations with both villages, but just as far as administration and whether it would actually, how much it would streamline anything, that's something to keep in mind. So then if you move forward to Article 3, which would be new, and there's currently nothing in the code about dog parks. There used to be something in the park chapter of the code, but it had been repealed. So the subsection C of 7419 was modified to include Briarcliff Manor, and the same thing about having to register, non-resident dogs having to register for the dog parks before June 1st for each calendar year. The tags would be in effect from June 1st to May 31st. And then Councilwoman Feldman, your question, I would be found within the regulations for dog parks, which is in 7421. And we had discussed this last time, and most of the, if not all of these regulations, except for number 3, which I was directed to delete.
Well, it's funny. I wish we could just find another way to say that, because you basically said no other animals except for dogs.
Kick out the squirrels.
Well,
I
just
think
I
you
don't
can't-
know
I
what
think-
other animals people may bring
Couldn't
to.
bring other animals. Maybe what we should say is people may not bring other animals except dogs. So the whole point is that they're not supposed to bring other domesticated.
I'm not really
animals,
sure
right?
it's gonna come up.
Okay, but I think we're just saying we don't want to aggravate anybody, right? You know,
You gonna bring a cat to
Just
the
gonna bring
dog
your
park?
cat to the dog park. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not gonna end well.
No.
I mean, that was kind of what I was thinking about the possibility.
Right.
Right. Okay, so maybe we leave it out as is, and then if it becomes an issue, we can consider amending it if anybody has comments. I think we should also, when we get to a point where we're all feeling good, we should also circulate it to the rec advisory board.
Absolutely.
Right. So rec advisory board is going to go back to our OPD and recreation and parks department and village, and we'll send it to the villages.
And invite the people at the dog park to.
And invite the
Comment?
people at dog park. Yes.
Here's the thing.
Well, there will certainly
There's gonna be
be.
public
It's a
hearings,
local
so-
law, so
yeah.
there will have to be a public hearing.
Right.
But subsection 9, the new subsection 9 says all dogs between the ages of 8 months and 10 years must be spayed or neutered. No dog in heat is permitted in the dog parks. And that basically is language that I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, came out of what the signs currently stated. So if that's not what the town board intends, we can certainly amend that language, but that's pretty much what currently exists.
Are you good with that?
Yeah, I just think it should be a little bolder up toward the licensing that, it says dogs will automatically be licensed for the dog park. I just want a little bolder that no non-neutered, no unneutered dogs are allowed.
So you want it in what section? In
Right,
what- what
top
are
and the front, pretty much, where it says at the same time as the dog license with the town, the neutered dog that a neutered dog is licensed with the town clerk, they will be required to register by the dog park. I mean, it should be
Maybe
right
it should
up
be
here in the
C.
beginning.
Maybe it should be in section C, 7410.
That's what I'm saying up here.
At the time that a dog is
Yeah, I
licensed,
don't want
right?
it way down here in the weeds. I want it
At the
you
time
will
the dog
license
is
your
licensed,
dog
and then you say no unneutered,
no unneutered dog. You will be
Neutered.
licensed for the dog park.
nails are on
This
space.
does not apply to unneutered dogs who are not allowed in the dog park. Yeah, I just feel like there should be a
It's
up at the top.
Unneutered and unspayed, or just unneutered? It's just unneutered? Or
no unneutered or
is it just the male dogs? Is it gender?
If they're not fixed.
yeah. I think any
Just
dog
male.
that's unfixed. I'm not
Is it?
positive. It might be just the males.
Yeah, because I don't think that the females can do a whole heck of a lot.
But when they go into it says or no dog in heat, but
Right. Okay. Fix them all.
And then we
but I guess VCA get a puppy.
We had a section in it's 7421 in the regulations for dog parks, subsection D, which is entitled Superintendent of Recreation. And basically it gives the superintendent or any other person or group authorized by the town board by resolution, which is something we had talked about. If there is a community group that's formed and cohesive in the future, that could take over some of these oversight responsibilities and wants to undertake that task, the town board could consider that and authorize them by resolution to promulgate additional rules and regulations as deemed appropriate, as long as it's not inconsistent to what's set forth in local law. And then the superintendent is authorized to remove or ban any dog from the dog park found to have a history of violent and or aggressive behavior. And this was something that was on the signs, but I didn't really see a way as that being a rule that could be strictly enforced. And so it seemed like something that, if the board agreed, would probably be better to be left to the discretion of the superintendent, who would in all likelihood hear about these types of incidents to the extent they occur. And then in the violation section, there was a tiered system based upon the amount of fines, and the board's directive that was that it should just be $250 per violation every time around.
And in referencing the question that was above that we didn't discuss, I think an unlicensing fee would probably be on top of whatever else they didn't do, as opposed to a separate fee $250 if you're not licensed. I mean, it would still be the typical town fee. Town.
So you're saying that if
We
someone
already have a
goes to
fee
use,
for an unlicensed dog.
right?
That should just stand the way it is in my mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, you know, and if
This is
you find the
separate
unlicensed
apart
dog
from
in the
that.
dog park, that's just, you know,
And then
two issues.
There was a question of the SPCA that is near the dog run, and if they, so they're not permitted to license dogs based on at least village code, right? So they're, because they have to, the adoptive owners have to
Right.
license
Right.
the dog. So would we have some kind of a special provision for SPCA to utilize the dog run? If they, would they have to, how would that work?
They have to reserve times. I don't know. I don't know how that would work.
Well, because my understanding was
Um,
that they are currently using, or they were relatively
Must have been.
recently, and they were inquiring when they had been closed down for a brief period of time.
Right.
Yeah, that's a bigger conversation because I don't know what they're using it for. If they're using it for the dogs that are not able to play in their regular area for one dog to be able to run around, I'd like to understand exactly what they're using it for, and we'd have to think up some guidelines. I mean, they can't just,
Okay, so I guess that,
you know,
that's a question that we need to address somehow, and it may not be.
and who's liable if that dog does something.
Right. So maybe we don't want them to use it.
I don't want to say that either. I'd like to get an understanding of how they've been using it and what their expectations for using it are.
Okay, fair. So we'll reach out to them and just see what we can find out. All right.
So if we wanted to have our guests weigh in, or if the town board has any other comments, I know they haven't had a lot of time to look at it, but
I was pretty happy with it.
Yeah,
I
definitely
think you
better.
did a great job. I think it really captured a lot of the comments that we had
Got it all on
received.
paper. I watched the
Yep.
meeting.
Yeah.
You got it all on paper. Good
Yeah.
for you.
And I think it's definitely, it's a really good foundation now for us to, I think, to go to the different groups and
Get
get
feedback.
specific, additional feedback, and then have, start to, I think, at least we can call for a public hearing and start getting feedback from the public as well. Might our guests like to weigh in at all? And if no, then no, that's fine. No? Okay. We'll give you a chance to,
Digest.
follow up, digest, etc. It does? Okay, fantastic. Okay, and rec advisory board, you think we'll look at it, but I think that generally this addresses a lot of the comments that we've heard from them. Okay, fantastic. All right, in that case, let's put that right to bed. We're good?
so at the meeting next week, do you want to call for a public
I
hearing?
think we should. Yeah, I think
Okay.
we should let's get the process started. Let's and that would be also an opportunity to let the our dog park friends know that they could also come, send in comments, etc. And we'll post
So
it.
here's a draft, and
Great,
let's
we'll
talk
post
about
it.
it with the public from here. Okay,
Exactly. And again, we'll circulate it to, we said, to the villages,
Clerk's office.
rec advisory, clerk, and
I think we had talked about the recreation department and police department,
Yep.
but
I got
since we
that
have
too.
them here.
Rec advisory meets Monday, and that's the last meeting until September.
Oh, okay.
So
So can
So
you
really
since you
we'll have to
put the
discuss
agenda,
it.
you put it on the agenda, will you, okay, fantastic.
I'll try to make any minor revisions we have to make, and I'll get that over to you certainly in
Wait,
advance.
is this a fun meeting when you guys don't talk about anything, you just eat hamburgers and hot dogs?
We go to the park.
On the bus a little bit.
All right, so maybe what we could do is circulate this draft in advance and just ask them if anybody has specific comments.
I'll clean it up. I'll get rid of the red line. I'll make
Okay.
it clear and I'll do a little key with italics and strike through so it's crystal clear and there isn't red line because I wanted you to see what I had done since the first version, and I'll make it easy for them to
Okay,
see what's going on.
sounds good.
Yeah, and if any of us could figure a way for people to, pay things online, would be really helpful. From the rec
Yes.
department.
I know, some
being
of it
able
is
to renew
yes and
things
some of it
online
is
to
no.
renew license.
Right, that's the clerk.
That's also a rec department conversation. We need to work on that too. So
The
in
new
my mind.
system, you can do almost everything online at rec.
Oh, good. We need to talk.
It'll be in my report here shortly.
Good.
Yes, which we'll hear very,
But
very
up
shortly. If we
All right,
get a chance
I'm
to
ahead
get there.
again.
Okay. So next up, we have a departmental report from our police chief, Kevin Sylvester. Welcome, chief. Thank you so much for coming out tonight.
Good evening, good evening. Thank you for
It's
having
a
me.
great night. Those are short announcements. I don't know if you know that.
I have a lot going on, but I tend to talk fast, so we'll sort of blast through this.
No,
But
I meant my announcements were short, so you got lucky.
Comparatively.
Comparatively. So
I'll try and be fun.
you can keep as long as you
Talk
want.
As long as you want.
I'm going to try not to drop this microphone here. This is not going to go well. All right. So here's what we've got going on. Right now with the police department, first half, really first quarter, but before the warm months come about and we start to get busy outside, training is our key thing. So from January until now, we've completed department-wide training for first aid, CPR, Narcan, legal updates, sexual harassment, firearms, in addition to sending individual officers to a variety of courses, including Field Training Officer School, which is going to be important for a reason we'll discuss in just a moment. Sergeant's course for our newly promoted supervisors, response to emotional crisis, some tactical training. Next week, we're going to be sending a new officer to motorcycle operator school. We've sent officers to Marine Unit Operations, to School Resource Officer School, and to Alert Instructor School, which is the new version of active shooter training. Our main focus on patrol right now is traffic in the town. The big things everybody's looking for are some help at 9 a.m. 134, which although we've made some fantastic upgrades a few years ago to the intersection there, people are not always necessarily paying attention to the signage that's there. So we're helping to make sure that everybody knows exactly what those signs mean and what they should be doing. On 133, we're looking for speeders out there. And as always, North State Road, we're trying to ensure that everybody's going just slow enough to notice all the businesses. Coming up, some traffic stuff that everybody should be aware of. As you mentioned, on Saturday, we've got the street fair. On Sunday, the Clearview 5K is going to cause some traffic in downtown. Next weekend, we have the Portuguese Cultural Festival going on Main Street. And then early in July, we've got our fireworks celebration coming up. We ask people to follow along on all of our social media so you can know exactly where those road closures are. We'll start with messaging tomorrow. So we've still got Facebook and Instagram, 2 Twitters, Nextdoor, Nixle, and we've now added Snapchat. So for those of the younger crowd, and please no moms and dads join that because then your kids will quit and we'll lose them. Intent on connecting with our younger crowd, we've established a new account where Officer McGovern, that would be Ryan, not Connor, who's in our schools, he works the Midnight Tour and he's going to be running a Snapchat as one of our younger officers who's familiar with that platform. And it gives our younger people an opportunity to interface with our department and also to see what goes on in the Midnight Tour because they tend to be a little bit mysterious and not everybody gets a lot of FaceTime with them. So new stuff there. Coming up, we right now have 6 vacancies for hiring, and we're looking forward to filling those very, very soon. We've had some interviews this week and some fantastic candidates, so we look forward to some big announcements coming soon. In the summertime, we'll be patrolling our parks, and while we're doing that, we have a very, very busy summer calendar. Hang on one second, I'll bring up some of that stuff. So we're going to be dropping dates. Hopefully we'll publish a calendar at the Village Fair on Saturday to be able to hand out to everybody. I want to double check all these dates with Officer Hershowitz, who's working diligently to make sure that everything's lined up. But as far as what I've got, I'm seeing 2 Coffee with a Cop at the Farmer's Market. I'm sure we'll be adding others of those. 3 movies in the park, 2 car seat installation days that'll go along with Touch a Truck, where kids will be able to come down and see things like fire trucks and ambulances and police cars and some construction equipment.
I'm sorry, that's happening
Those will be at the police station.
at the police station.
Yep.
And then movies in the park is
They're going to move around to different parks around the
Okay,
community.
great.
We try to move our events to every part of the town and village so that everybody gets a little something in their neighborhood. And our big thing for this summer is going to be partnering with with the Austin Union Free School District. We are going to be doing four block parties this year instead of 1. We've got lots of community partners in those and some really fantastic stuff. That information is going to get dropped over the next couple of weeks, and kids can look forward to finding flyers for that in their backpacks when they go home from school. But some really, really exciting stuff going on there, and we're looking forward to that. And I'm not sure if I mentioned it, we also have added to that 2 sports nights. So we'll do 1 soccer and 1 cops and kids kickball. And after that, our wives promised that we would come home and spend some time with our own families after we've done all of those events, because I think that covers every Friday and Saturday for the entire summer. So we're looking forward to a busy summertime. Lots of really exciting stuff. Lots of ways for the community to connect with us. And we encourage people to come out to as many as possible.
Awesome. And thank you for also, I think for the block parties, you said that you would partner with us for Mind, Body, Spirit Austining. So we should have some wonderful programming that is probably happening anyway. That's just another way for people to enjoy the outdoors and some kind of a wellness activity.
Right. Well, Open Door is one of our partners in that, so
Exactly.
they're already in. So.
Yeah. And we have also been talking with the school district about that as well. Fantastic. Okay. Are there specific questions that anybody might have? How's our leaf blower legislation
So-
enforcement going?
I didn't check the blotters to see how many complaints we had this weekend. I didn't get any specific reports from anybody, but as with any new legislation, the strategy is always going to be education up front. We expect that we'll get some calls. We'll be driving around and addressing things proactively in other places. But most of the conversations at this point in time are going to be informing people about what the legislation is. Some people know and will choose to do it anyway. Most people, I suspect, just may not know about it. So I know that I've been in touch with the folks at Ossining Lawnmower and talking to them about what kind of sales they've got going on. I'll be picking up my new extremely expensive electric leaf blower tomorrow. Looking forward to that. Christmas in June. But we're going to be working with people, and we've put out some memos to our officers so they can know the distinctions between what the town and village has, because there are minor distinctions between the two. But we're ready.
And we do have
Do
these
they
little,
count
we have the little handouts that actually I just got asked for more for Ossining Lawnmower, who's going to be at Village Fair. I believe we've given them some for Earth Day. We're also going to be distributing them at Village Fair, back and front. It's got the town on one side, village on the other side, English and Spanish. There's two sets of them, so we will have those available also at Earth Day. We're happy to provide more to you for
Yes, so
that.
do the officers have a copy of it and or some that
They
can
don't,
hand
but
to
we'll
people?
we'll have to talk, because distributing those among 60 staff members in sufficient numbers that they can hand all out would probably require a whole new printing of them. So we can talk about that
You're
after.
not saying hand them out, you just want them to have them on
Well,
their-
if they're pulling up
Just
to
be familiar.
somebody who is unfamiliar with the law, they can go, hey, just so you know, this is what they came up with. Wasn't us.
We don't have them now. We can look into getting some copies of those. Generally, what we ask them to do, they've all got a copy of the law digitally, so it's through their email, and they've got access to that through the computers in the cars. The handouts are nice. What we're really looking for when a new law comes out and you have the opportunity to stop with somebody is to make it a conversation. The handouts are always a good way to sort of make that connection, but the conversation that comes with that is usually where the real value comes from. So we'll look into getting some of those for them to hand out, but we're looking forward to getting out in the community and really talking with people.
And again,
Congratulations.
I know that there's already been pushback on social media and people who are upset about it. And I just want to reiterate that we're not the first, we're not the second, we're the 15th or 16th community in Westchester that's adopted these types of regulations. They're to protect people who work in this area. And we have heard that really people do have health related issues as a result of gas-powered leaf blowers, and it's also better for the environment. It's better for the ground. It's better for your own gardens and your own lawns, and ultimately, it's better for quality of life because it reduces noise pollution, and that makes it a lot nicer to sit outside in your own lawn, in your backyard.
Just want to clarify one statement. When I said I bought an extremely expensive leaf blower from Ossining Lawnmower, it's not. They have extremely reasonable prices there. I chose to buy the most expensive one they had because
And
I have a lot of
thank
leaves.
You for setting an example and getting
Very,
an electric
very
leaf blower. I would really I really appreciate that, Chief.
And the other thing, of course, is if you learn about mulching in place, you can have a wonderful lawnmower that also mulches while you mow. And we do that in our town parks, which actually is great for your lawn and reduces the amount of leaf waste that you have to deal with. So that's another option. And again, this is only regulating during the summer months when we don't have leaves falling from the trees, and during the months when leaves are falling from the trees, we don't have regulations in place for that time. So, all right, fantastic. Does anybody have any questions for the chief? No. Okay, thank you so much for that
Thank you.
wonderful update. And I have one quick question. I do have one quick question.
I was so close. I was the door. It's right
I
there.
always do that to you. No, I just thought of it, and I'm not putting you on the spot. If you happen to know, I had heard a rumor that PBA was not planning to use Cedar Lane Park again for their 5K.
I don't
You
know.
cannot comment.
I
have no idea. Okay.
I'm
Just
no
because we
I'm no longer a member. I'm not part of the planning committee for that, so I couldn't tell you.
Okay, fine. Thank you so much.
You won too many times.
Exactly. Awesome. Okay, so next up, we are going to hear from our superintendent of recreation, Bill Garrison. Have a great night. For his departmental report. This is the time that recreation starts to get very, very busy, and also when our parks hit peak use as well. I'm sure Bill will have lots to share with us tonight about what's coming up this summer in Ossining.
Yes,
Thanks,
good
Bill.
evening. So we got a lot going on in the recreation department. One of the things, our programs are really going well and very strong. We started a new program over the winter for pickleball, which has grown and grown, and now we have the problem of where can we play pickleball? So we're working with the group of people that are interested in trying to find locations other than the gym around town. So that's something that we got to take a look at because there is a big demand. It's a big popular sport right now. So we're taking a look at that. Our after school program is 120 kids, and it's been that way each month since September with a waiting list. So it's an extremely popular program that provides a great service to people at a low cost for after school care. So we're going to look at ways for next year to try to increase the number of children that we can accept into that program, because I think that'll help out some people, some families that really need that after school care.
What's the age range for that?
Kindergarten through 6th grade. Our swim lesson program, the swim lesson program used to be a 10-week period of time each season, so fall, winter, and spring. What we did was we shortened that to a 6-week period, and we were able to get 2 6-week periods in during each season. So we were able to add more swim, and that really worked out well because people were more apt to sign up for the 6-week period. It's less commitment, and if you wanted the second part of that, you would sign up again, and that's what people did. And our numbers for swim programs went through the roof, and we added more and more, and we were actually, for the first time, having summer swim lessons that we've added to the schedule. So that registration is now open. Summer recreation program is open online, and people are signing up for those programs already. So those are just some highlights of some of the strong programs that are going on and some new things that we've done in that area. Camp is right around the corner. It starts July 1st. The registration has been open since the middle of March, and they're filling up quickly. We have Rider Camp is now full. We do Brookside Camp for grades kindergarten and first is nearly full. We do have room in Claremont and a little bit of room in Vets. Registration is going to close on June 21st. So if anyone is interested in...
Remind us, Claremont and Vets for ages.
Sure. Claremont and Rider are grades 2 through 5. And that grade is entering in September. And Vets is grade 6 through 9th, entering 9th grade. Registration for the camps are going to close on June 21st. So we need, for anyone who's thinking of getting their child into the camp, please do so quickly.
You can do so online.
And you can register online. So let me talk about online stuff. So one of the big pushes that we started initiative back in September was introducing Community Pass, which is our online registration form software program. At the time that we did that, there was an online registration option available for recreation program. And at that time, 16% of the transactions and registrations occurring were online. Recently, we just looked at that and we're up to 56% of online transactions that are occurring. So that's a great, and we think that that's positive because one, it adds more convenience to people, for people, but also two, it's I think it's enhanced our program and the registration of our program. It's easier to register for a program when you're looking on your phone or your computer and not have to go to the community center and take time to do that, because would be guilty of that, where I would not be able to get down there and do that in time, and then I would miss the registration and I would miss the program. Now I can do that with ease on my phone. So that's very positive. We have almost everything available online, including now, which we started in January, which is the parks and facility rentals. And that is a process that we've worked out. We had a few problems and we're still working on a few things, but the majority of it, we're getting 5 to 6 facility and park requests each day. We're able to screen what people are looking for and what the purpose of their rental is. A lot of them are just very straightforward, and we're able to issue an approval, which goes back to the person with the fee, which they can do online. Once that fee is paid, we get a notification of that, and then we can issue the permit online, which is nice because then people have a paper copy and they never have to come into the community center. That's been really good. All this now is on the website, the recreation page website. So you can go on and see the availability of the pavilions, the picnic areas, community center rooms. So if you have a particular day that you're looking at, you can go online and see if it's available and then put in your request right there. Once you put that request in, it pencils in that date. And then once we approve it, you have 7 days to pay for it. And then once it's paid for, you get your permit.
Now, you do know that we recently put up the little separate picnic area at Engle Park, little things so that we could stick.
Yeah, actually, I was just down there earlier and saw Mariel down there, so we talked about it. So we're going to work out how to. We'll have the park ranger on Thursdays
Okay.
go post any reservations
Great.
that are there,
Okay.
so people will know.
Awesome. That's great.
Yep.
And then we did we finally order the big?
Yes.
Okay, we ordered a big poster too, so we can put the rules and stuff like that up.
Right.
There at Engle, because I don't think we have those clearly posted right now.
Mhm. So we have some new programs and some special events that are coming up, which is great, which will make us more busy for the summer. One is we're working with Mike Risco doing on June 21st, the first day of summer, which is Make Music. So there's music all over town, and we're going to have a ukulele band at Henry Gordine Park, and there's also a sing-along performer coming to work with the seniors at the nutrition program. Plus, there's music all over town in Ossining and Briarcliff. Starting July 23rd, we're doing a 3-week family entertainment series, and this is going to be down at Henry Gordine Park. So one night is a magician, another night is a juggling show, and another night is music. The idea of get out with the family, come down to the river, and enjoy a show in the park. Another new program is an acoustic music series that's going to be occurring in Market Square.
Can you just go back to the family
Sure.
entertainment? So what time? And that's July 23rd. What are the dates?
July 23rd, 30th, and August 6th, and those are 7 p.m. start.
Okay, so sorry.
No problem.
Square?
Market Square, starting July 10th on Wednesdays, would be an acoustic music series. This is going to be a 6-week program. We have a couple more dates to book, but we have local songwriters and performers and singers that are going to be performing with the hope to kind of bring people into the center for some very low key, and hopefully they'll patronize some of the businesses and grab some food and come on over and listen to some great local talent. Another thing that we're doing that's new is kayaking down at Lewis Engle Park. This is online as well. We are working with an outfitter, Hudson Valley Guides, and they're going to provide lessons and for kids and adults, and rentals and tours. One of the tours is going to sunset paddle, which will occur on Friday nights with the concerts. So that's kind of a neat thing. You can go out onto the river and paddle on a little tour and come back and listen to some music while you're sitting in your kayak. And there will also be tours on Saturdays, and those are going to start June 22nd.
And do we know how many people can, what's
I believe it's 10. The max is for those tours.
do we know what the cost is?
I believe it's $35 for the tours, and the cost of the lesson is $30. And I believe it's a little less for kids.
So the responsible agency, the insured agency, is the Hudson Valley Kayakers, or we're sending a lifeguard also?
No, they are. So they're fully insured outfitter.
Right, that's my question.
Yep.
Okay. Good. So it's not on us.
No, we're listed
is
as
it
a.
our boats or their boats?
Their boats, their guides.
Oh, great.
We have insurance that's town is listed as additional insured.
We have a contract of some sort.
Yep, we have a contract.
All right.
They've seen our ferry.
Yes. Yeah, he actually, that's why I was down on the waterfront. I was meeting with him, and he had come down Saturday and checked the whole area out. It's very excited.
Great.
You want to mention the waterways?
Friday night. Oh, I guess the ferry will be running Friday.
Yeah, Friday night will run.
Fantastic. That's awesome.
And,
Last, I just, one of the things I think that we can look to work on is looking at some of the ideas for parks improvements, fields. One of the things that, in the past year and a couple of months that I've been here now is just the demand for field space, and taking a look at, Cedar Lane Park, for example, for that field, that, what could we do to make that a more of a viable, playable field for soccer or lacrosse or football. Also, so working to get some ideas and some prices that we could bring to the board to have a further discussion and say, here's a price tag and here's what we could do with this, with some ideas with that. So those are some things I'll be working on and with the Recreation Advisory Board to kind of bring to another work session down the road.
Okay, are you only looking at the bottom field, or are you also looking at the one behind the pavilion?
We're looking at everything because I think we really need to look at space because there's such a demand, and we have mixed groups using same fields, which soccer will bang up a field much more than a baseball. So then when soccer's on your baseball fields, those baseball fields get banged up
I know this
and
is,
it's treated differently and maintained differently.
I know this is a crazy question, but I've noted multiple occasions when we see people using paved areas over grassy areas. So we still have this paved area at Cedar Lane that was the old basketball court that's sort of like not anything right now. It's
Right.
by the volleyball courts. I mean, there are opportunities, and again, I'm not a paving person per se. I don't like paving, but I don't happen to like paving, but we have this paved, underutilized paved surface at Gerlach, which was a basketball court and is, potentially going to need to be a basketball court again. We have this paved surface that is at Cedar Lane. We have the not good drainage situations at Ryder for the 2 or 4 tennis courts, basically. And so as we're thinking about uses for, whether it's pickleball or multi-use areas that we could do, because, I have seen that there are, even though USTA doesn't like it, and they might help us pay for refurbished tennis courts, they wouldn't pay us for multi-use spaces, but I have seen other, even in just as, in Briarcliff, where they have basketball courts and tennis courts together, and possibly, it could be pickleball. So if we're looking to improve any of those spaces, I think that we should, again, look at all of our parks kind of holistically and have a plan in place, that where we can sort of plan it over time to make these fixes. We want to make fixes to our parks so that they're as utilized as possible and that they address the needs of our community, and the desires of our community, and also the changing landscape of, recreation and parks. Things change. We have the Girl Scouts proposing the Gaga pit because people are playing, what's it called?
Gaga ball.
Gaga ball. Thank you. I was going to say playing Gaga.
In the Gaga pit.
Right, in the Gaga pit. So that's great. But again, things evolve. So to be able to have multiple ability to use, whether, again, volleyball, is, there is a demand for that.
Huge
Our
demand.
basketball courts, we don't have a lot of basketball courts that are in good use are in good shape right now. That doesn't mean people don't want to play basketball. It just means that we don't have great places to play. So again, I think if we had ways that we could find multi flexible spaces, that would be great. Overhauling our fields, extremely costly. All these things are costly, so we need to find a way to phase in these improvements so that we could tackle them in a way that makes sense over time.
Financially makes sense.
Right, financially makes sense.
Yeah.
And again, and look for, there are sometimes grants, whether it's from National Recreation and Parks Association. They sometimes have grants. There are grants out there. The USTA has grants specifically for tennis courts. So it's possible that there are other parks grants available that we could look to utilize. And there's Office of recreation parks and historic places state grants also. So if there's any of those that you know that are available that would help the town finance some of these improvements, that would be great.
We'd absolutely be willing to look into that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the idea of some mixed use areas, there's different surfaces that can work with that. So it's not just asphalt putting it down, but you could do things where you could play soccer and you could play pickleball and you could do other volleyball type things in there in a small contained area or smaller contained area, which I think is kind of a creative way of dealing with some of this, which is not a costly putting in a whole new, 100-yard turf field,
Right.
which would be great. And it could, it's going to get utilized in this community, but there's some smaller things that we can look at. So that'll be part of it. That'll definitely be part of this.
I mean, I definitely would like to. I'd love again for any of those anything that comes out of the recreation parks. I mean, the recreation advisory committee would be helpful, and then just to start to look at all of the parks that we have. What are the current uses, and while we're doing that, make sure that we think about accessibility, because that's another issue that we have to consider for our playgrounds and our parks, and adult physical activity. Also, as we think about games and team sports, there's a lot more people looking for just sort of fitness equipment that they can utilize, and we know that there are parks. There's packages now available for parks. They used to have the fitness trail, which we still have in Ryder, which isn't in great shape and again underutilized, but as a combination of not having it been kept up, but also probably underutilized. But now there's these spaces where they have equipment that's accessible and also multifunctional, so people can go there to get a good workout. And just want to thank you for helping us with the Mind Body Spirit project, which is again an opportunity for people to utilize our parks and public spaces with our local wellness businesses for free activities, usually on the weekend. We may have one coming up during the week, and we've been working with Open Door, but also we now have a page on the registration as part of the registration page, so people can register for these free programs. That way, if they get rained out, we have a way to contact them and let them know, sorry, it's been rained out, or it's not going to happen, or we moved it to under a pavilion or something like that. So we appreciate that, and we're hoping that we can make it a little bit more robust so it's easier for people to find what they're looking for and to take advantage of the free opportunities that we'll be offering. Any questions for Bill?
I have a question. Can you renew your rec card online
Yes.
from your phone
Yes.
with a credit card?
Yes.
Awesome.
Wow. That's great. And congratulations, I think that 56, from 16 to 56% is that, or 50, something like that. That's
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, I'm happy with
really
that.
fantastic.
Um,
Very, very exciting. So we'll hopefully continue to take good advantage, and we may be taking the dog park permits off your hands,
Please.
which I can't think would be so bad. Although right now, can you sign up for that online? No.
no, because you need to pick up
physical.
the tag.
Tag.
Right, which I guess we can't print out the tag, so until we have 3D.
One thing that
printers in our houses.
just reminded me about that was that a recommendation that I got from a resident was to make the tags like a metal dog tag
I think that
rather
is
than the plastic, because when the dogs are playing,
Yeah.
they
plastic pops.
break. So if you made them the same type of metal as the dog tags
As a rabies tag.
Yeah.
Or the dog tag, yeah.
or the
That
license.
would be, tinted, but it's not that terrible. It's $1 or $2.
I got that feedback as well.
All right, our kayaks will be used for the camps again.
Right now, I don't think there are any plans for that. I know that the Spartan swim team will probably be using them for for activities to go down there as a swim club, but not for the camp.
Okay.
It's still on our list just to fix up and have a better
Kayak rack.
kayak rack or 3. Yeah, or 3.
It's getting popular.
3 that are.
Yeah. And what was the other thing that just reminded me about kayaking? Oh, the boat launch.
Right.
So
so-
we have that. So the boat people who want to get a permit to launch their boats from the town launch can either do that through the recreation department or through the Austin Boat and Canoe Club.
When you're at the ramp, just go to the boat door of the Austin Boat and Canoe Club if somebody hasn't already seen you and can come out already. And remember, if you do buy your tag, you need to put it on the driver's side of the tongue where it of the trailer tongue where it attaches to your car, so that the boat and canoe club members can see it when you're launching, and they won't harass you if you have the proper tag, and will harass you if you don't.
And you can get a
No.
day pass or a season pass.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I not that I asked you.
And
in
thank you
advance
for
to know
more
that, but
passes.
Is that that's not something that you can do online either, I assume, because you have to get an actual.
Right, you got to pick up
sticker.
the sticker.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I really appreciate
Very
the
welcome.
update.
Thanks.
Okay, so moving right along, next up, we were scheduled to have a brief conversation about the concept of being a suburban town, which was introduced to us by council during last week's meeting. And we wanted to just get it out there and call for a public hearing on it so that we could start the conversation. But as it turns out, this is likely not something that we need to hold a hearing on, as we've discovered that the town already enjoys this status. Ms. Tomadonna, would you like to embellish on this?
So, Chapter 3A, I believe, of New York Town Law, which is state law, is entitled Suburban Town Law, and it pretty much just provides some additional administration provisions and authority for town boards if they have been designated as a suburban town. And it's something that the town board can do itself by resolution that's subject to permissive referendum, either if the town board decides they want to put it to a referendum or if there's a petition submitted by the public. So the way it would work is that if you had adopted a resolution before July 1st of this year, then as of January 1st of 2020, you would then be able to have the status as a suburban town as it's set forth in the town law, which just gives you some more maneuverability in terms of how different departments are structured, which is something that kind of went hand in hand in the dialogue you've been having about the referenda to convert the positions of superintendent of highways, receiver of taxes, and town clerk from elective to appointive. So, and this is something that, so it was just a conversation to have. But when I started researching it more to have this conversation with you tonight, because it's done by resolution, it's not something that would be found in your code. But luckily, and this is not very common, there was a provision in the statute that required that as an annex to the session laws that are adopted by the state legislature every year, they have to include a separate list of every town that is designated as a suburban town and when they became designated as the effective date. And so it looks like Ossing's been designated a suburban town since January 1st, 1964.
Woohoo!
So it predates my existence. Okay.
Yeah,
And-
it looks like the town of Ossining, along with several other towns within Westchester, actually, Greenberg, Mamaroneck, Newcastle, Rye, Yorktown, Cortland, Eastchester. So a decent amount of towns also share this designation and have done so since pretty early on. It was enacted in 1962, and I would say since the 60s or 70s, almost all the towns in the list have been doing so. So it was something that was being looked at as something that would be something that the town board could utilize going forward if the referenda were to pass. And that's something that's important to remember, and I apologize for not saying it earlier, is the provision of the town law that allows for the modification and creation and discontinuing of certain departments. It's only allowed for those positions that are not elective offices. So if the town board were not to adopt the local laws, or the referendum, each individual one, were not to pass, then these provisions would not be applicable. So that's always the first step in this process that the town board's been going through for a while now. And then if and when you get to that point, there are the provisions in suburban town law that can be utilized if the town board were to decide to do so.
Okay, so glad to know that they're already in place.
So I think we had called for a public hearing, the board, sorry, had called for a public hearing but that will no longer be necessary. So we'll just indicate on the agenda for next week that the public hearing has been abandoned, or whatever terminology, just to indicate that there's no need for it anymore, so that the public is aware.
Sounds good to me. Alrighty then, so that's it for tonight. Might I have a motion to go into executive session for advice of counsel?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed. So thank you, everyone. We look forward to seeing you next Tuesday, June 11th at the courthouse for our regular meeting beginning at 7:30 p.m. Interesting. I randomly said p.m. That was random. Have a fantastic night and a great weekend. We look forward to seeing you around town this week.